Most people believe motivation is the starting point of success. They think once they feel motivated, everything else will fall into place. They'll wake up early, focus better, and finally follow through. What they don't realize is that this belief quietly keeps them stuck because motivation doesn't arrive on command. It appears randomly, disappears without warning, and often shows up when no action is required. That's why motivation feels powerful late at night. You're not expected to act immediately, so your mind feels safe dreaming. You imagine routines, discipline, and progress without resistance. But when the moment to act actually arrives, your brain shifts priorities. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Motivation has never been the reason people change their lives. In fact, motivation is one of the most unreliable mental states we have. It comes suddenly, feels powerful for a moment, and fades just as quietly. Think about how many times you felt motivated and confident. You planned a new routine, imagined a better version of yourself, and promised that tomorrow would be different. And then tomorrow arrived, and nothing changed. This isn't because you're lazy. It's because motivation was never designed to last. Psychologically, motivation is an emotional spike. It's triggered by novelty, inspiration, or pressure, not by consistency. Your brain releases a short burst of dopamine, giving you energy and optimism. But dopamine doesn't reward effort, it rewards anticipation. Once anticipation is gone, your brain immediately looks for comfort again. This is why motivation works perfectly for watching motivational videos, but fails when it comes to real action. If motivation actually worked, the most inspired people would be the most disciplined. But that's not what we see in real life. The people who build habits, careers, and stable routines aren't constantly motivated. They're often bored, sometimes tired, sometimes emotionally flat, and yet they keep moving. So what are they using instead? The answer is something far less exciting, but far more powerful. Structure. Your brain doesn't run on motivation. It runs on patterns. Every habit you already have exists because it fits into a predictable structure your brain recognizes as safe and familiar. You don't brush your teeth because you're motivated. You don't check your phone because you feel inspired. You do these things because your brain knows exactly when and how they happen. The mistake most people make is waiting to feel motivated before they act. But psychologically, action is what creates motivation, not the other way around. When you lower the emotional requirement to start, your brain stops resisting. This is why small, boring actions change more lives than big emotional decisions. Not I'll work out every day, but I'll put on my shoes. Not I'll focus for 3 hours, but I'll open the document. These actions don't feel inspiring. They feel almost too easy to matter. And that's exactly why they work. Because small actions don't threaten your brain's need for safety. They don't trigger fear, identity conflict, or resistance. Once movement starts, momentum quietly takes over. There's another reason motivation fails. Identity conflict. If your self-image doesn't match the behavior you're trying to adopt, motivation will always lose. Your brain's main job is not to help you grow. It's to keep your sense of self stable. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, struggles, or gives up, motivation feels like pressure, not support. So your mind creates excuses, distractions, and delays, not to sabotage you, but to protect the identity it already knows. Real change begins when behavior becomes evidence, not emotion. Each small action sends a signal to your brain, this is who I am now, not someday. not after motivation appears. Now, the people who seem disciplined aren't pushing themselves harder. They've removed the need for motivation entirely. They rely on systems, simple rules, clear starting points, predictable routines. Because when behavior is predictable, motivation becomes optional. And this is the part no one likes to hear. If you're waiting to feel motivated, you're waiting for permission from a feeling that doesn't care about your goals. Motivation is a visitor. Structure is what stays. Once you stop chasing motivation and start designing your environment and habits around consistency, everything changes. Progress feels quieter, less dramatic, less emotional, but far more real. And eventually, effort stops feeling like a fight. Not because motivation finally arrived, but because your brain no longer needs it.